There's a lot going on right now, but the idea we're going to be able to, click a switch, bring down the cost of gasoline is not likely in the near term, nor is it with regard to food.
And I remember watching in the Oakland Hills, Northern California, the landscape turning from green to brown. And everyone, from my mother, our teachers, the radio DJs, KDIA, Lucky 13, saying how important it was to conserve water.
But it wasn't just the president who got it wrong a year or so ago. I want to play for you what you said about inflation last year. Listen to this.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable. I don't anticipate that inflation is going to be a problem, but it is something that we're watching very carefully.
Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk, did that contribute to the problems we're all seeing right now?
Look, I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I at the time didn't fully understand.
Today, we're announcing the United Airlines has agreed to offer cargo space for Kendall NutriCare for the delivery of 3.7 bottles of the formula here in the States.
We became the first new infant formula manufacturer to be registered with FDA in this country in over 15 years. We started this work, well before a shortage, with a motive.
Now, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Secretary. I'm going to have you speak now, and your remarks, and then we're going to hand it over to Samara, behind me here.
Information. I want to thank those groups because we are really pulling together in this crisis. To all the parents out there who might be worried at this point about the food supply for your child, there are a few key messages I'd like to share with you today. The first is to know that while we are moving fast and pulling out the stops here, safety is still our priority. We are bringing in formula from abroad, but only formula that meets the FDA's gold standards for safety. The FDA knows how important those standards are, takes its responsibility to provide safe formula to families very, very seriously. The second point I want to share is that for safety reasons, we are recommending that there are certain things that you not do, like water down formula or make formula at home or use toddler formula for infants. I can absolutely understand why people may consider some of these options, but the FDA does not consider those safe at this moment, which is why we're not recommending them. The third point I'd like to make is that it is okay.
Here's the deal. I became aware of this problem sometime in early April, about how intense it was. And so we did everything in our power from that point on, and that's all I can tell you right now.
What does it mean when you have the most, almost 60% of people polled said the economy is their number one issue, right? So what does this mean for Biden and the Democrats?
Nothing good. Nothing good. It's bad. I mean, look, if you ask folks what's the most important problem, which is what Quinnipiac did a few weeks ago, what do you see? You essentially see that inflation, far and away the most urgent issue facing America, well above abortion, 3 times as high at 33%. And, they're blaming Biden. That's, I think, the key thing I take away from all this. Essentially, what's President Biden's job performance on inflation? Just 28% approve. Just 28%, 68% disapprove. And inflation, of course, impacts views of the economy at large. So you look at the net economic approval rating that Biden has currently. Look at this. Minus 26 points. Minus 26. That's tied with Jimmy Carter for the worst in the last 40-plus years. It's awful. Folks do not like the shape of the economy, and they're blaming Democrats.
Did you, and I'm going to ask this to your other colleagues, did you anticipate that the closure of the Abbott facility, because it was not producing the quality that was necessary, that would have this profound an effect immediately? Or did it take a little time to?
We were aware of the general impact that this would have. And so from the moment that recall was announced, we reached out immediately to retail partners like Target and Walmart to tell them this is what we think will happen. and this is the inventory we have on hand right now, you should order it. And any inventory in your distribution centers should be pushed to shelves as fast as possible. And they've been great partners in taking all of those actions. And then, of course, as the recall has gone on, more specific impacts have been felt, and we've learned and adjusted to those as well. But no, we knew from the very beginning this would be a very serious event.
On every single thing. Why didn't you act sooner? Well, I don't think anyone anticipated the impact of the shutdown of one facility in the Abbott facility. And it was accurately shut down because the formula was questioned in terms of its purity. And so once we learned of the extent of it and how broad it was, we kicked everything into gear. And I think we're on the way to be able to completely solve the problem. But
Mr. President,
they knew it immediately. Didn't the CEOs just tell you that they understood it would have a very big impact?
they did, but I didn't.
The very first thing we did when we heard about the Abbott recall was we could foresee that this was going to create a tremendous shortage. We significantly increased all our material orders. We began communication with the FDA immediately. We began collaborating closely with the FDA, our retail customers, and other stakeholders to identify and prioritize what was most critical. And we've been meeting, by the way, weekly with the FDA ever since.
I met early on with those CEOs, and they were trying to figure out how they could move quickly. And you've been very helpful, so thank you.
But these are the worst numbers in more than 10 years?
Yeah, that's the worst number in over a decade, according to Gallup. And it's not just about how they feel about the economy right now, it's how they feel about it going forward. Do you think the economy is getting better or worse? And look here, only 20% say better, 77% say worse. That's the worst spread, again, in over a decade. And, it's not just about views of the economy overall. It's views about how you're changing your own habits, right? How is inflation impacting Americans? Change grocery purchases, 63%. Cut back on extras, 63%. Cut back on driving, 54%. So they're seeing it bad nationally, and they're feeling in their pockets as well.
The backlash over inflation, a new NBC News poll showing 71% of Americans disapprove of President Biden's handling of the rising cost of living. And a lot of people won't like to hear this. Gas prices now reaching a new all-time high, $4.67 a gallon. Get this, up 5 cents since yesterday.
The White House conceded that the Fed calling inflation transitory was a mistake?
I think the White House concedes that them also calling it transitory was a mistake, because you saw it's not just President Biden, his top economic advisors, also Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who earlier tonight told Wolf Blitzer that she was wrong to call it transitory when she said that inflation had posed only a small risk. That was something that you heard not just from experts outside the administration, but repeatedly from officials here at the White House. And so it's posed this question to the White House whether or not they didn't do enough to prepare voters for these inflationary numbers that they are seeing, the higher prices on groceries, on gas. She conceded it today, but we should note that Brian Deese, the president's top economic advisor, was in the White House earlier today. He did not call it a mistake, but he said, of course, what has happened was unexpected and uncertain.